Welcome to this very special show of the KAJ Masterclass. And today's Supermaster is Daniel Alfon, live from Tel Aviv in Israel. Welcome to
Hi,
the show,
Jay.
Daniel. Welcome
Thank
to
you
the
very-
show.
Thank you very much for having me in the KAG Studio podcast.
Thank you. Daniel joined LinkedIn in early 2004. And Daniel is the author of Build a LinkedIn Profile for Business Success. And now he publishes articles, interviews, exclusive content about advanced LinkedIn strategies for clients and subscribers on his website, danielalfon.com. So thank you very much, Daniel, for joining this show. Before we start, a bit of a programming note for our viewers. In case there is some technical fault and a link drops, then be assured we will come back very, very soon, immediately after, and you wouldn't want to miss this special show. So, Daniel, straight to the point. Everybody, a lot of professionals, individuals, businesses, small businesses, big businesses, business pages, everybody has got a LinkedIn profile. What, according to you, is a LinkedIn profile,
That's an excellent question, Ajay. I would say that a LinkedIn profile is the best place for a career person, for a professional, for an entrepreneur to showcase their expertise and get either clients and leads or the next place they will join as an employee. It's the best B2B marketplace in the world. It has it's close to 1 billion users, almost 180 million users in India alone. And since you went live, 100 people join LinkedIn. Every second, two people sign up.
Okay. So, as per your understanding of LinkedIn, you have been on LinkedIn for a long, long time now, and you are the expert of this particular platform. What makes a LinkedIn profile great? And if you can look at it from a point of a career of individuals, professionals, freelancers, anybody it is, and also from business perspective, mostly from startup point of view, small businesses. If you can tell us what makes a LinkedIn profile great, and anybody who can make their profiles better by listening to you.
Okay, it's a broad question. I will suggest a couple of things. If you're an entrepreneur, then the first question you should ask yourself is, who is your audience? And if we're looking for a new job, then we should ask ourselves, who is the hiring manager we'd like to report to? So say I could be a writer or a journalist or a podcaster, and I could do that both in-house for a company or as having my own company and offering those services to other people. So let's focus on the other side. Someone who's likely to hire us, when they bump into your LinkedIn profile, the first thing they will see is your photo and your headline. So I'll try to see if I can maybe share my screen here rapidly.
Sure.
And when people visit your profile, what they see initially is this. So the banner, that's a great way to get people's attention.
Okay.
And they see the photo and they also see the headline. And I think your headline stands out because it's a lot more interesting. The I know what to do with content is an awesome headline because everyone is attracted to content. Most of our listeners will use content one way or another. And on LinkedIn specifically, that's the gasoline. That's the engine that we'll use is content.
Yeah, thank you. I must thank you. Thank you for your expertise in this. I learned this from you. Even though I have a journalism background, a content writer, I may still struggle to put it out the best way possible that I learned from you. So it's all because of you that I could come out with a headline like that. And I guess it is working better and representing my abilities, my capacities better. Yeah, continue, Daniel.
Okay. What I'll do now is show you a funnel. Let me see. Can you see my screen now?
I can't. Can you share here? If you share it the way you did earlier on, I'll bring it live.
Of course. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ajay, let's imagine that our audience, the person we'd like to attract to our LinkedIn profile, is going and seeing your profile or our listener's profile. Then it's our job to make them go to the bottom of the funnel, and this presents a number of stages or number of obstacles. First, they have to find you on LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account, they will not be able to contact you. They will not be able to hire you. They will not be able to say, we need someone with your skill set. And it's very easy to set up your profile and to improve it. And what people will see then is the banner and the headline and the photo. That should make it interesting for them to scroll down and see, okay, what is that person up to? What is his knowledge? What skill set does he have? How is it relevant for our company or for myself? Another question people will ask is, if I see that I have a mutual connection with you, and then what I think of that person will influence the way I think about you. And you should also remember that connecting with people is a question you should take seriously, because if I see that we share a mutual connection and I reach out to that person and ask them about AJ and they say, AJ who, then we're not in a good position. What I would like them to say is that AJ is the best journalist you should speak to. He has an amazing agency. He can help you launch your broadcast. He can help your firm with crisis management. He can have his studio operate on your behalf. And if what we hear is a recommendation, then we're likely to say, you know what, how do I get in touch with that person? So it's really a funnel. And the best advice I could give to our listeners is try to look at our profile as if we were our ideal client.
Okay.
And what questions would we ask, and what information can we show our audience that will make them understand why we could be a solution to their problem?
Okay. You are a big proponent of a great headline. Now, can you tell us how to make that headline great? Because as far as I understand,
yes,
a lot of people, when they talk about anything that they build in terms of their profile on LinkedIn, they think about the algorithms, that algorithms should find them. And and then it's what only algorithms do what they do. But I understand that you believe that headline is for humans. Now, can you elaborate on that and how to make headline better? A lot of people are listening to you, seeing you, Daniel, and the point must go across that anything that is written there, especially the headline part, is the most important part, and that they can make it better without thinking about non-humans or algorithms.
Excellent. You've made a very valid point, and a point a lot of LinkedIn users forget. So let me reinforce that. Yeah. Our profile should be built for humans, because eventually the person who wants to hire you will look at your profile and decide what the next step is. There is some part to the algorithm, but it's not the central one. If there's a clash, the human part is always more important, because let's imagine that someone has stuffed keywords and his headline or her headline would say content 6 times. then maybe in the short term, when I run a search for content, that person will be high on my list. But Ajay, what will happen the second I see his profile? I look at it and I say, is this real? And I move elsewhere. I go to visit some other people's profile because I think this is not genuine. This is not authentic. This is not a human-to-human interaction. So our headline and our profile in general should speak to humans. It's more important than the algorithms.
Right.
And going back to the question of headline, I'll drop when we discuss my website, there's a freebie there about improving your profile. But let me go very quickly over the elements, the 3 or 4 elements of a customer-facing headline.
Yeah, in fact, Daniel, as soon as you finish your points, if you want, you can also take us through your website also, and we can share it with the viewers here so that they know exactly where a good amount of LinkedIn content is on your website. Yeah.
Great, thank you. There are 3 or 4 elements that we need to think about when we think about our headline. Number 1, your headline should demonstrate your value and not be a job title.
Okay.
And that's why I think your headline rocks. Because you could have said, owner at Ajay, whatever, but it's less interesting for the customer. So each time we have a problem, we need to ask ourselves, is this better? Should we say, I know what to do with content, or I'm the owner of ABC? And your headline demonstrates your value. So that's the very first thing I would recommend our listeners to think about. The second thing we can mention about the headline or customer-facing headline is that an ideal headline, a profile headline, should make your target audience stop and check you out. Because if someone only sees your headline, the headline is the most expensive real estate in our profile. Because when we run a search, we only see the headline in many cases, and we don't see a lot of information. So we can think about the headline as the window that should get our audience interested. The headline cannot answer all the questions. Because if you said, I'm a content producer and I can also make the social aspects of it, then the headline would be too long. And that's the third aspect. An ideal headline should be short. If it's short, you're a journalist, it makes it easier for people to read. And if the headline is too long, some people will skip it or will move elsewhere. And lastly, the ideal headline should appeal to non-specialists. If you're using terms that our readers are not familiar with, then they will simply go elsewhere. We need to make it as simple as possible for them to understand that we are the answer to their problem. I'll share my screen just for 5 more seconds. And this is the part about creating a LinkedIn profile headline that sells. I'll send it over, and maybe you can add it to the YouTube comments down the road.
Sure, I'll do that. Yeah. So headline part is any further points you want to make on the headline part? How do professionals and freelancers, how do they work out their headline? Because people who are established companies, they may still hold that edge about their companies. They may just write it, and recruiters or other people who may be interested in such people may know about it. But what about people who have very good profiles but are not able to portray it in their headlines? How do they do that? Especially professionals, freelancers, service providers who are very good in their work, but on the matters of headline, they would still can do better.
Okay, so let's understand that the default headline is your current job title. and it shows the position you have now and the name of the company. Now, in some cases, like, as you know, the name of the company is a door opener.
Right.
But in other cases, the name of the company is not familiar. It's not a household name. So we should ask ourselves, is the name of my company an enabler or not? Will that open the door or not? And some of your listeners will say, of course, I work for Teta and I want to use the name of the company. And others would say, I'm a freelancer. I just started out. The name of the company is not going to open the door. And when they understand that the name of their company is not going to open the door, then we go back to the basics. What will open the door? How can you help your ideal audience? And it's a lot easier if you focus and understand who your ideal reader is. And
Right.
initially, my advice would not be to try to sell to everyone everything, but try to niche down and say, my expertise is in this world, in this realm. Because it's a lot more attractive for people to find you when you're an expert in technical writing or WordPress programming or visual storytelling or whatever it is. No one is looking for someone who, among other things, could also do that. Most people, most companies looking for someone with an expertise. And it's our job to really think about our headline as a slogan. What would make our reader tick? What would make them say, I need to, even if I have 300 results in a search, I've got to check this person out. I know what to do with content makes me think that if I move to someone else, I may have missed something. So all our listeners have to do is think in the step to the shoes of their ideal client who doesn't know them and figure out a short sentence that would make it interesting from their perspective and to use that as a headline.
Okay. That's a lot of good information, Daniel. Now, in terms of profile, a lot of small businesses and other people also, they start making their LinkedIn pages apart from their profile. How
Yes.
do small businesses make use of business page on a place like LinkedIn? How do you make best use of that? Because big businesses, they are still fine. They have place they make their name is known. But what about smaller businesses, startups? India is bringing on so many startups every day. So especially for them, if you see.
With pleasure. It may be counterintuitive, but the first thing to understand is that for startups, the company page is often not the most important aspect of LinkedIn. The reason being that their company page, is likely to have very few followers. If the startup out of Delhi has 50 employees, they will have 50 or 70 followers. But the co-founders may have 300 or 3,000 connections. So their profile, their individual profiles, the staff, the managers, the R&D manager, everyone, the marketers, of course, they are their profiles is the tool they will use. And the page is really a static page. You need to create it. You can create it in 20 minutes and then forget about it and maybe post once a month there. Why? Because let's see the one of the key elements of LinkedIn. The most frequent action LinkedIn users perform is viewing other people's profiles.
Right.
Let's try to understand the meaning of this.
Okay.
As an individual, you were referring to the importance of the humans here. The natural action on LinkedIn is to connect as individuals. I see Ajay's profile. I may send an invitation request to him. Very few LinkedIn users follow company pages. Okay, if you think our listeners here may only follow 5 companies, and usually it would be the companies they have worked for. So by default, I would have those companies as followers.
Right.
The company is not the most important thing. Moreover, what's the difference between the company page and the profiles? Even if someone follows your company page, you don't have access to a lot of information. You don't have their email address. Whereas if we connected, then you would have in my contact info, you would able to see my email and get outside of LinkedIn. And one of the most important things to remember is that LinkedIn is a tool.
Okay.
And the conversation happens in real life. So LinkedIn can help us shorten our sales cycle and get more exposure and get more opportunities, but eventually it will lead to a conversation. And if we don't have the contact info of our followers, then we can't do a lot with that. So the profiles is the way to go, and have someone manage the page itself and only share something there once a month, it'll be enough. But don't focus on the page before you have 1,000 employees.
Okay. So, Daniel, let's now move away from the headline part. A lot of people, you talk a lot about video covers, and a lot of people do not know about covers much, especially video cover that can be, utilized to the maximum. Can you give us in as much detail about what a video cover is and how best to use, or you can say make use of that property on LinkedIn page?
With pleasure. A video cover is a relatively new feature that LinkedIn launched a couple of months ago. And it enables everyone who visits your profile to see a short video, 20 to 30 seconds, that is muted. So that could be a great way for our listeners to be creative and to use that space, because very few LinkedIn members have used a cover video on their profiles. And I think there's an important point here. You don't have to pay for a premium LinkedIn account. Most of our listeners should not do it before they know the tool really, really well. But what they should do is look under the hood and see what little known features of LinkedIn can enable them to stand out. And the cover video is just that. You could have a short video introducing yourself and saying something that will resonate with your ideal audience. And when you visit the person's profile, you will see the short video, 20 seconds. If I were a video producer, then I would produce a video, an amazing video for 20 seconds. And instead of saying, I know what to do with video, I would show you a video. Okay. So you can use or leverage the cover video as a way to demonstrate rather than explain.
Okay. And what is a good video cover?
We need to go back to the person we'd like to attract. Okay, if I'm an agency manager and I'm looking for customers who are looking for someone to manage their social media presence, then I will probably say something like, your job is to run the company, and we can help you deal with the social media part of it. So you can get your next customers, and we give you more leads, or anything that would make it simple to understand what is it that you offer. If you're a technical writer, or if you're an editor, then you could explain the importance of what you're doing. Because if we see, a headline with a spelling mistake, then that doesn't appear to be professional. So the worst thing to do is to appear unprofessional in the world's leading professional community. You need to look professional. So use the cover as a way to make people, to make your profile stand out and really speak with your audience. If you're looking for ABC, this is exactly what I know and what I can help you with.
Okay. Daniel, you are a strong proponent of using humor for video covers, as well as LinkedIn is one of the top professional tools or medium, as you say. So how do you manage that humor as well as professionalism at the same time for video covers?
Okay, so I think your presence on LinkedIn is best viewed as a professional, conservative, heavy, and slow platform. Okay, and I think your profile should look serious and professional. The cover video is just like the spicy element you could add to your profile. And even if you do it with humor, you still have a point to make. And the point is to show how you can help the other person. Now, if you're in real life, if you love to use humor, then the video cover is an excellent way for you to showcase that. But if you are shy and you don't like to do it, then LinkedIn is not the place to start trying to make fun of yourself.
Okay. Daniel, today there is a big word that's everybody seem to be engulfed with is FOMO, fear of missing out. For
Yes.
professionals on LinkedIn, they have a fear, many I talk to, that I am the best, but recruiters have missed me out. Or that's the fear that, so they try to, put so many keywords here and there. And even in providing services, so the providing services part, I'll come later on.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you manage this fear of missing out or having somebody else missed your profile out by those recruiters? Several of them may not be, so experienced. They go by algorithms or whatever. So how do you manage your profile, your summary, and LinkedIn profile as a whole, that you have that confidence that I've not been left out by algorithms or by humans, whoever they are, or any sort of recruiter, whether newcomer, intern, or the or the topmost man in the in HR, or even the recruitment firms. That's a big worry and fear for any professional, because they just want to be in that list of shortlisted candidates.
Okay, so let me try and answer this great question with three different mini answers. Okay, one would be how to be found initially to maximize the chances of the recruiter to actually find you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to offer a very simple method. If I'm a full stack programmer and I want to be found, then what I would do is this. I would go to LinkedIn Jobs or to Glassdoor and find detailed job descriptions of the positions you're after. So you will see 3 different companies looking for a full stack developer, and if your specialty is different, then just find those job descriptions. Then the next step is to use either a spreadsheet or a notebook and to extract or write down 20 to 25 terms out of that detailed job descriptions. So if I'm a programmer, it would say backend, it would say Java, it would say software, it would say all sorts of terms, and I would write them down. And my advice would be to find at least 3 different detailed job descriptions. And if you try to write down 20 to 25 terms, Ajay, you will end up with a list of 60 to 80 keywords. Now and only now we go to your LinkedIn profile and we search for those terms. And our listeners will probably see that many of those terms are present somewhere in their profile, but not all those terms are there. So what we could do is shorten the list, and out of the 60 or 80 terms, we now have only 20 terms that are nowhere present in our profile. Let's say that the term Slack or the term cloud is a term we found, and it's nowhere to be found in our profile. Now comes the most interesting part. Where do you feel it would make the most sense to use the term cloud or the term Slack? And the important thing to remember is that LinkedIn searches through all of your profile, from your great headline to the intro to the experience section and even the skills.
Okay.
So if you don't consider yourself an expert, then the skills, as long as you know how to spell the term, you can add it as a skill. But if you've worked in a cloud environment, then all you have to do is tweak the description of one of the positions to include the term cloud. And that's where the human and algorithm axes join. You have to understand the algorithm, but you have to write for humans. So the sentence that has the term cloud needs to make sense to the reader. Right. So find 3 jobs, your ideal jobs, extract 20 to 25 terms, look for those 60 to 70 to 80 terms in your profile, and then when you see that there are a number of terms that are nowhere on your profile, pick one and say, where does that fit with my knowledge? And do it. That will help recruiters find you, because most recruiters enter a series of terms. They will not just look for, full stack developer Delhi. They will add 5 or 6 or 8 additional terms. So that's the attraction part. The second aspect I think is important has to do with networking.
Right.
Networking is far more important than LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the tool that enables us to communicate, but networking is really the essence. And if we think about the ways we could network on LinkedIn with recruiters, whenever we get an invitation from a recruiter, a connection request from a recruiter, many LinkedIn users will not accept that invitation and will not do anything with it. There are a number of things you could do. If you accept that invitation, then please follow up and write and say, hi, I see that you've asked me to connect and that you're a recruiter at ABC. Can I be of help? This is what I'm doing. And out of that simple communication, in some cases, you will get a lead. They will say, you know what? Yes, we're looking for someone with that skill set. Is that relevant for you? Just because you followed up. Most employees, most LinkedIn users don't even follow up. So you will stand out by making this very simple email.
Absolutely.
What you could also do, if you have a connection request, you can also reply to that person without accepting his invitation. And I'll share a short video with you later, so that if you get an invitation and you don't know that person and you don't want to connect, you can still write and say, you know what, thank you very much for reaching out. When I move to my next thing, what I would look for is this sort of position. Can I be of help? Thank you very much. That's it. And if the recruiter says, you know what, yes, we're looking for someone with your knowledge, then do it. And lastly, a simple method to get more recruiters interested in you is to make sure you're visible on LinkedIn. In the settings and privacy, you need to be able to show people you visited their profile. and simply visit as many recruiters as you can publicly. And most of those people will check who viewed their profile, and you will be one of the results. And then they will visit your own profile. Some of them will send you an invitation request. Some of them may reach out to you. So the strategy involves make it easier for people to find us by incorporating the right keywords of what we'd like to do in our profile. Network in a strategic way by replying or following up, and visiting interesting profiles publicly, and then following up with those who visited us. Does that answer the question, or was it too much?
No. Nothing is too much, because it's a big path that needs each one has to traverse as per their requirements. In fact, a very quick question that comes to my mind is, I see a lot of recruiters also looking for jobs on LinkedIn and trying to come in what you call in the eye of other recruiters at companies and human resources. What is your advice to such people? Recruiters looking for recruitment.
What happened in the tech world in India and Israel is that the market is so hot that talent acquisition specialists and technical recruiters are scarce.
Right.
So they're very much in demand. What I could suggest are maybe two quick things. One would be I would like to refer to the open for work badge that you can add on LinkedIn. Initially, most people think that they need to use or upload that badge when they're looking for work.
Right.
My advice would actually be to stop and think it through before they do it. And let me explain just why. If I'm looking for a content specialist, say I have AJ1 and AJ2. Am I asking myself who's the best content producer that has a lot of time on his hands and is looking for a job? Or do I just look for the best content producer out there? And I would go with the second. So even though you can use LinkedIn strategically to find jobs, you should not shout and say, I'm looking for work, because if you're a talent, you're not supposed to do it. So the best way for recruiters to be attractive is not to say, I'm looking for work. Who knows how much time they will have to use that badge? What happens if I see that badge, for months on and on, then I may think that they're maybe not the best recruiters out there. It's like, visiting the neighborhood and seeing a house that's for rent. You see the sign, and you visit it in 3 months, and you see the sign is still up there. So you say, maybe it's not such a great deal.
So Daniel, is it the same for companies also who have put, we are hiring? A lot of people put that badge, we are hiring. And the companies also put up, we are hiring. So what does it mean? Means even CEOs at top level, they put, we are hiring. So does that apply that if that we are hiring badge is there for a lot of time, then that company is not that great as it wants to make out to be? How do you look? I want you to answer both the questions. I'm sorry for interruption, but I thought maybe I'll forget this part. So just need your perspective from both ends for both the things. Open to work and we are hiring.
Fine. So I'm hiring. In some cases, the company is constantly hiring. Okay, when the startup is in a hyper growth stage, then they truly are always hiring. But if we think about the talent's perspective, the person they want to hire, then what a lot of companies could do to enhance their candidate pool is not to outsource hiring just to the recruiter, but to try and involve the hiring manager as much as possible in the process.
Right.
So if you're the hiring manager, instead of just asking someone to post the job, you could go to your LinkedIn feed and say, I'm looking for an expert on Photoshop, or I'm looking for a PR specialist. And what would happen is that some of the people who will reach out to you are either people you know and trust. And when they say that they would like to hear more, you know exactly what you'll get if you work with them. Or in some cases, they can recommend someone to you. But what happens when I see that you're looking for a specialist, and I think of someone with that skill set, so I immediately ask myself, is this a good match or not? And if I'm not sure, I would not reach out to you and try to recommend someone else. So trying to leverage your network is the best way to get names of people who will fit with your company, who will fit with the KG studio, because they know you and they know what it's like to be with you. And a lot of companies focus on the recruiter, and the recruiters have a lot of work to do, but they cannot do it successfully without the hiring managers.
Okay. So, Daniel, from the employee perspective, or from freelancers or independent people, professionals who are looking for job or work, from the company's perspective, they also always want to hire the best. What is your, say, suggestion or tips for them that they hire the best people who are looking for work out there? Because several times, in case I also have faced this problem, I get random calls for positions like maybe 2-3 years experience that is needed. Now somebody in that system is doing something not right. Either their keyword search or whatever they use is not correct. Means, why is it not able to distinguish between a professional having 20-25 years of experience and somebody who has just got your requirements? So somewhere you are not doing something right. Second thing is that, are the companies doing right by getting people who have not been trained for the such a thing? I guess the same must be happening in some format, even in your country. How do companies tackle? I understand the constraints of companies, but there has to be. But it is also imperative to make it right, because their future workforce is determined by this action that they take to find the right people for their positions. What is your tip or advice, and what best to make their algorithms the best way to work for them? Overall, the way you see it.
Okay, it may surprise you, but what I'll say is basically against automation.
It's okay. The whole idea is to get humans, the right humans for their job, isn't it?
Isn't it? Okay, so let's do this. There are many systems out there that enable recruiters and companies to run a search, and when a certain keywords come up, to send a generic message to 2,000 people with those terms. And they think that they're doing a great job because they reach out to 2,000 people that have that keyword. But the question they should ask themselves is, what is the quality of people who applied through that system? And in many cases, there's a disconnect, because 500 people had that term, but it's not what they're looking for. And a third used it in a completely different way. And 200 people have 25 years experience when I'm looking for someone junior, or the other way around. Because no human was involved in the assessment stage, then the fact it's easy to do is a curse. It's a curse for the company, because they keep sending all sorts of invitations but don't really get quality candidates. And it's also a curse for the candidate. Why is that? Because 20 years ago, when the candidate wanted to apply, they needed to it took them, maybe 30 seconds or a minute to actually apply. And before that, it would take, maybe minutes. Right now, an easy apply on LinkedIn could take as few as 15 seconds. Now, how much time, Ajay, would you need to read the actual job description? In many cases, a lot more than 15 seconds.
Absolutely.
So most people just spray this. They see that, they apply, and they create a lot of noise, and the signal to ratio noise is not good. And if we go back to what can be done, then I would sit with my staff before going outside to LinkedIn. And I would say we're looking now for this team. We're now looking for a specialist who knows to do A, B, and C. And I would try to get names out of my existing employees, because if an employee recommends someone to us, then the chances of that person to be able to work with us, and they would not vouch for the employee if, in most cases, if the employee didn't have the right skills or was not able to fit in with our company culture. And this is a stage that many companies are forgetting or overlooking. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to go where no person has ever been. You can start in your own backyard. Who would be able to recommend better candidates than people who work for you?
So, how do you make the best use for, say, one is the human resource department of a company or the recruiters within a company itself. But a lot of people hire placement agencies or recruiters from outside, or you can say there are big firms who are doing the same thing. You mean to say that even big firms are using algorithms or keywords in a different way or not the right way, that there is a huge room for improvement? Means, is it that the whole industry as such are following automation in such a manner that almost a lot of good candidates are getting neglected by the system? Or is there some way for the automation to be used? See, LinkedIn is a great tool. How best to make use of that tool? And algorithms can be your friend if you use them right. But I guess, is there a lot of training required to understand, to use the algorithms right, to find the right people for your work that you are looking? Because there are companies, small companies, big companies, there are recruiters, individual freelancers who are looking for you, candidates for you. Then there are placement agencies, huge amount of company using perhaps the same process. What best can be done? And today, a lot of people are hiring through LinkedIn because it is the top professional platforms available as of today. How to make best use of this platform? And from everybody's perspective, these tips will be helpful. From the company's perspective, nobody wants to make a mistake by intent, but somehow automation is leading to that in a different way. Even though even LinkedIn must be trying hard to address this problem, but people are not learning the tool itself in the right manner.
Let's ask a broader question of ways as candidates and as companies that we can find the product we're looking for. And there's a whole world outside of LinkedIn. Okay, now what's the case for LinkedIn for freelancers or consultants or solopreneurs is that it's a great place for you to show your expertise. And of course, there are a lot of marketplaces out there, but marketplaces often start with, Fiverr. You can start with $5. And
Right.
if your expertise is expensive, then most buyers on Fiverr are very tight-fisted because they see that they can hire someone for $10, $15, $20. And on LinkedIn, you don't have the marketplace aspect of, hey, there's someone cheaper here, there's someone cheaper there. So
Right.
it's more, most companies would would be willing to pay more for a candidate they found through LinkedIn than through an Upwork or Fiverr or any other remote platform, because the remote platform is based on price. And LinkedIn is not based on price. It's first you show what you can do, and only then the price comes into play. And if I think of ways the companies could tap into other candidate pools, then depending on the sort of talents they want to join, in some cases, meetup groups could be a great way for them to find someone in a specific niche. In other words, they could use Glassdoor to find employees of a certain company, or they could go to AngelList and find investors and companies they've invested in. Or as a candidate, it's best for you to think of your LinkedIn presence as a way to showcase your portfolio. Okay, so it has to be self-sufficient. If I'm looking at your profile, you don't want me to hear, you know what, my profile says A, B, and C, but Ajay, I would like you to know D and E and F. Try to make it up to date and try to make your profile self-sufficient. If I see your profile for 5 seconds, I want to know more about you. And if I scroll, at the end of the day, I need to say, this is the person I would like to contact, because what they do is relevant for us.
Right. In terms of using the providing services part, how to make the best use of that section on LinkedIn, Daniel?
Cool. So LinkedIn had a soft launch in the US over a year ago, and now it's rolling out gradually worldwide. So you could say that you're providing services. It's a simple process, and that will highlight on your profile that you're providing certain services. The list is not exhaustive. There are a number of options there that you can be an editor. You can be a list of things. It's not enough in itself, because even on LinkedIn, when we run a search, we'll find hundreds of people who offer those services. Right. So maybe as that marketplace grows, maybe LinkedIn will make it even more compelling and even better from the search perspective, so that I can find people who offer those services. Right now, it's still in the beginning. And if I were offering my services, I would still make sure that my LinkedIn profile makes a good first impression that's good, because it's not enough to allure the person and to attract them to your profile. They see a lot of noise there, and our job is to make them understand that you're the answer to their pain, you're the answer to their solution. So just displaying I offer services is not enough.
Okay. One more area that some clarification is needed is the creators profile that LinkedIn, that service that LinkedIn gives. Now, every second person, if I'm correct, is a creator nowadays. They are creating something or the other, and there is and a lot of them are content creators, whatever sort of content that they make. Now, who is that particular option on LinkedIn for? Who and who can make the best use of it? And even for people who are creators, for many it is not for them. How do you make best use of that particular option on LinkedIn?
Okay, it's an excellent question. And very quickly, there's if you're a creator, then that makes the default setting a follow and not a connect. So if you want to go that route, it's important for you to ask yourself, will I have content to share? If you have content to share, then making the follow button the default one makes a lot of sense, because you're no longer restricted by LinkedIn's connection limit, and you
Okay.
can become a powerhouse. Of course, the earlier you start, the better it is, and it will take time until you grow your tribe and make it interesting. But it content is king.
Right.
If you have content that is well produced and you can use the LinkedIn platform to highlight that content, then the creator mode could be interesting. There are pros and cons, but I think that's for a quick answer. That's enough.
Okay. And one more question. Now, I guess I don't want to use any different words here, but LinkedIn, a different sort of content is floating on LinkedIn itself. And people traditionally accustomed to the old way of LinkedIn may have their own views. Now, from a professional point of view, people who are wanting to engage with your network down there or engage with people, B2B, or even for with recruiters, what should be their what should be your guidance for them to the type of content that they share on LinkedIn? Exactly, this is a question from Germany, from Pukraj Chaudhary, and he's exactly in his words, let me read it out, is that what is your opinion on LinkedIn increasingly become somewhat like FB? That's Pukraj's words from Germany. What content do you recommend should people reserve exclusively for LinkedIn? That's a question, exactly, Daniel.
Okay, so content in the long term, content is what attracts most people to you on LinkedIn. Okay, so if you want to look at it strategically, you would have some content creation plan. And the first question was, who's my ideal client? Who's my ideal reader? And then the second question should be, what sort of content will they look for that I can produce and that will educate them about what they're looking for? Let me give a quick example. Instead of just saying, I'm great, this is what I do, if we interview a couple of our ideal prospects or even our existing clients, we need to be able to understand the problems they're facing. Let's say around the world of content, you produce all sorts of content, and they have questions about whether producing a podcast is the right business move for them or not. Then instead of just saying we can produce the podcast for you, you can create content about why a podcast, what consideration you should make before launching that podcast, what frequency is best for you to do, what sort of content will you make there, and are you willing to wait for the podcast to gain traction? And if you manage to answer the questions your prospects are asking themselves in a non-salesy way, you basically educate them. And when they decide they need a podcast, AJ, you'll be the go-to person. So instead of trying to make a hard sale, really understand the problems they're facing, the questions that make them wake up at night. And in many cases, you can produce content around the pain or around the dilemma. We don't know whether we should produce more videos or have a podcast. Then you can explain the pros and cons of both. And when you become a trusted advisor, then you're likelier to be the agency or the firm that the companies would apply for, because you help them without just saying, buy from me. I have the video production. I have the best podcast services out there. I have a quick thing I wanted to mention about crisis management.
Right.
Because I see that your company also offers crisis management. So I'd like to share my screen for a second and mention a very obscure thing in LinkedIn privacy. And the settings looks like this: notify connections when you're in the news, yes or no. So this is something I'm going to share with you later. What is the meaning of this, and what should we do about it if we're a about to be in the news.
Right.
The best part about it, of course, if you know that you'll have a TED talk, you're going to be rewarded, and there'll be a lot of news about it, then definitely tick that and enable your connections to see it. But let's imagine a world where something might happen that will hurt your reputation.
Right.
Okay, your clients, in some cases, will find themselves accused. And if you have that setting enabled, it means that the thousands of connections that you have will get an instant message from LinkedIn saying that person and showing the new daily business where you've been accused or your client has been accused. So it's a double-edged sword. You need to really think carefully about this, because you know it better than me. Prevention is a lot better than cure. If 2,000 people see this, maybe only 100 will actually click and read and understand that it's not the same person, but it has the same name as you. And if I could encourage our listeners to do something, if their reputation is important for their company, then now is the time to reach out to you and build a contingency plan. What if our firm now polluted the Indian Ocean? What if our CEO were to be accused of sexual harassment? And it's a lot easier to think about what needs to be done than trying to put out the fire once it starts. So it's a very little thing in the privacy, but working with an agency about crisis management is best done before the crisis emerges.
Absolutely, Daniel. And before I move to my other set of questions, first let me ask you about your book, Daniel. You have written a book, Build a LinkedIn Profile for Business Success. If you can share about what a lot of people will be interested in knowing more and more. And however long we discuss out here, that will not be enough. Everybody tries to consume things in their own space and time. So tell us about the book that you have written, and who can make best use of that book.
Thank you very much.
And after that, also your website, because your website is a big place for a lot of information. I myself read as much as possible, but I feel there is so much to learn from that, and that's why I want each and every person who is listening to it or seeing this broadcast, and later on whenever they will get a time and see it, they make the best use of what you are offering and have to offer.
Thank you very much. The book was really an opportunity for me. The book initially came out in 2014, so I've been on LinkedIn for a decade, and I wanted to write a book that will encapsulate or capture everything about the profile, because as you know, the profile is where we need to start. And a lot of people rush to add connections and send connection requests and accept people without their profile being effective. Now, what does that mean? It's as if I was running a Google search on your full name, and when I go to the first result, I see a page that is under construction. So before rushing to invite connections and to send requests, the first thing you need to do is to build a powerful profile. That was the intent of my book. So it's divided into 12 chapters, everything that I can think of. And my website has a section called articles that are free to read, where I try to dive into one aspect of LinkedIn, sometimes connection strategies, sometimes content, sometimes profile elements, sometimes some other counterintuitive truths. And I send an email once a month on the 15th. The last one was about cover videos, and that's probably the best way to keep in touch with what happens on LinkedIn. And thank you very much for that opportunity.
Yeah, your website is danielalfon.com. So anybody who can visit directly, that's a repertoire of, repository of information, I must say. So that can be used. And in fact, anybody who wants to use your exclusive services also, they can connect with you, for one-to-one discussions. Am I right, Daniel?
Absolutely. There's a 1 hour personal in the store. There's an opportunity to have a one-on-one where you would explain exactly what you're looking for, and I would advise you what the next steps could be. Thank you.
And where can your book be found? Means if anybody is interested to buy or read about
Amazon. Amazon is the place to go. It's called Build a LinkedIn Profile for Business Success. And the funny thing about it was that my author page on Amazon has 2 books. Like, this is the one you discussed is my book, but I also was fortunate enough to contribute a chapter to the growth hacking book number 2.
Okay.
And that's a book where 100 experts provided one actionable tip, and that's recent. That was released last year. So
Okay.
Amazon would be the place to go.
Okay. So that's good. Because people will like to visit your pages, even your LinkedIn profile, and learn out of it. And obviously, your book is out there, so whoever wants to learn as much more, because it is a huge ocean down there. And when you are looking for more business or leads and business generation, leads generation, you want as much, nice information and nice advice that's possible out there. And you are a LinkedIn expert, and that's going to be very helpful. Now, coming back to my question, Daniel.
Yep.
During this COVID, there have been, the big word that has come in is the Great Resignation. Now, some people call it a sham, some people call it a permanent thing that's going to be. But the fact is that a huge number of people have either quit their jobs, they, trying to become digital nomads.
Yes.
But a lot of also people are also realizing that it's a tough path to take. The economies in the world are moving in their own direction. So a lot of people will be trying to get back into the scheme of things, mainstream job search. Now, for people, especially the youngsters who are, a lot of them are creators, but creator obviously does not mean that you can earn your livelihood forever in that sphere. It needs more than that. How do you, or what do you suggest for people who have taken a break, who are young, and or who are more above 40, 30, whatever it is, when we're trying to get back into the workforce and try to find their foothold back into the industry? Because I'll tell you what, Indian market especially, the job market is very different. I don't know how it is in Israel, but it's a bit conservative, and it's almost like unforgiving sometimes when you have had certain a couple of years of job break. It's not like in Australia. I was talking to a friend who's based in Australia, so he was telling that it's very cool to go and tell the hiring person, mate, I was on the beach having beer, and they will be comfortable about it. But in India it's a bit different. It's not like that. A break is a break, and somehow we start to look at a break in a different manner, or even a failure. It's like a startup has not worked, you have taken a break, and you go asking for a job, you are looked at differently. How do people utilize LinkedIn to showcase their best abilities in spite of this break to the world who are their prospective customers or recruiters?
Okay. It's a complex question. I'll try to touch maybe on one or 2 points. First,
Yes, yes, please.
chronologically, maybe we should look at the beginning when you're in the 20s and you're thinking of running your own show and being a service provider. I think the most important advice I could give those people is that their expertise is not enough. It's the marketing that will make or break their career. Because if you were the greatest content producer out there, but nobody knew it,
Right.
then too bad. It wouldn't work. And a lot of youngsters think that because they are experts, which they are, it's enough. It's not enough. It's not enough, because if you don't know how to market yourself successfully, then no one will hear about the product, your services. And the world is full of companies dominating their field without their product being even average. But the marketing machine worked perfectly. And going back to the career aspect of it, the single most important factor I see is your ability to network strategically throughout your career, whether you're 19 years old or whether you're approaching retirement. Your needs will differ, but if you don't have a close number of people you can reach out to, and if you're not helping your network and you only reach out to them when you need them, you're in trouble. And thinking back about people who have were offered services and want to get back to the corporate world or back to the companies, even if when you go and start your own thing, try not to build bridges with the people you worked with. You can say, I'm no longer interested in working for that company, but you've worked there with dozens of people.
Right.
And just pick the ones that you enjoy the conversation most with, and try to stay in touch with them, because as an insurance policy, at one time or another, you may decide you need to get back to work. And burning those bridges is shooting yourself in the foot. Even if you're successful, you still may need those people to help you refer someone. If you're looking for an expert on ABC, if you're looking for anything else. So when you meet people, don't be transactional. Don't think about, no, I don't want to work with him today, so I will forget about him, because 2 years down the road, when you see that you look up someone on LinkedIn, you look him up and you see the name of that person as a mutual connection, if he goes and says, Daniel, yeah, of course I remember you. When you were leaving, I suggested that we get a chat and maybe a virtual coffee, and you said, yes, I'll do that, and I'll get back to you. And you didn't get back to me. And then 6 months later, I also offered you something else, and you said, no, fine. And now when my company is hiring, or when I know someone, now is the time you remember me. No one likes that.
Right.
No one likes that. And keeping in touch with people you've met is a lot easier than breaking new ground and trying to get introduced into people who don't know you. Before going to the world, start with your own tribe, even if it's 20 people, 50 people, and try to keep in touch with those people, because it will help your career in the long term. It's at least as important as what your expertise is. You need to be an expert, but it's simply not enough.
So you got to still be human and be really connected and not transactional. Sir. Yes. Daniel, though, there is it a trap when people try to get as many followers or connections on LinkedIn? It is something good to showcase that I've got so many connections whom you actually don't know? Does it work anywhere, or is Is it okay to have 200 or 300, real connections? How does that work in the LinkedIn environment ecosystem?
I wish more people would ask me that question. So you could leverage LinkedIn perfectly, having 200 connections you know well. And the truth is, you may have 5,000 connections, and LinkedIn will give you crickets. No deals, no contracts, no clients, nothing. So I think the best way to look at it is ask yourself whether you, Ajay, would like to be best connected or most connected. Best connected means 200 or maybe more people, and you connect with them. The greatest advantage of that is that whenever you look someone up and you see a mutual connection, you can ask that person to make an introduction. An introduction can mean real business, real revenues, real contracts, real jobs. And the downside is that you don't have a lot of connections. Let's look at the other aspect. If you have thousands of connections, the limit today is 30,000 connections.
Right.
Then when you share something on LinkedIn, many people will see it. So you get a great exposure. The problem is that in most cases, when you look someone up, you know nothing about those people. And if your prospect or hiring manager would ask them, they would say, you know what, maybe he sent me an invitation. I have no idea who that person is.
Right.
So you have to decide or pick one side, either exposure or trust. You know what? Most people don't want to choose. So they aim for both. They start with 200 connections, and then they keep hearing, no, you have to have 500 plus connections, whatever. And at one point they wake up and say, okay, I have 2,000 connections. It's not a lot of exposure, and I polluted my network.
Yeah.
So
You
if
missed
you
all
want
the
to go,
messages.
yes, if you want to go quantity, go the whole way to 30K. If you're not willing to do that, then stay with people you know well. You can gain a lot of things through it. Try not to aim for both, because you will end up having neither.
Daniel, I would like to continue asking questions, but that my questions, I don't think, because this every individual who is watching this, listening to this, or later on listen, has to take that journey of his own, on his own on LinkedIn. Each person's requirements, journey, and learning has to be his own, his or her, and
Yes.
then only they can take that path towards success. So I will never be able to ask all the questions that each person will have, and I've tried to bring ask some questions that as an individual I have in mind, and also talk to several friends. But for more, obviously they will have to come to experts like you, who have put so much in the public domain itself and also in your book. So I leave it to them with all this information for them, especially for my India friends, that there is so much out in the public domain. You don't have to search for it. Just go to one particular place. You can find a lot of information that can be useful for you. And one small line, even for a headline, can change your professional journey forever. That's with that thought, I would say thank you very much for your time. It's been more than an hour, around an hour and 18 minutes. I never thought that I would be able to talk for so long, but it's a very, very deep learning for me, especially if I look at it from that point of view. Thank you very much from me, as well as from my friends, from people from India, people, professionals, small businesses. And I'm sure as time goes, we'll have more questions on LinkedIn, and you would be the first, our go-to man to come back again too. With those thoughts, it's a wrap on this edition of the KJ Master, talking to a super master of LinkedIn, Daniel Alfon. Thank you very much.
AJ, thank you very much. And we Israelis love Indians and India so much. We'd like to see more Indians visiting Israel, and that will be my last famous words.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.